Hello, I'm Scott Barber for the Landscape Ontario podcast. Today I'm excited to be joined by Lindsay Nightengale and Ed Hansen. They are both members of Landscape Ontario's new Social Awareness and Ethics Committee. They're here to talk about what the committee is and its goals. That's coming up next. Ed, maybe I'll start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about what this committee is, how it came about, and let's start there.
Sure. Well, I think in the nutshell, Scott, first of all, thank you for doing this. This is an awesome opportunity for sure. Get the word out and chat about it. So the committee started realistically because, you know what, we are an ever evolving group. And I think that for us as an association, it's important that we are reflective of our membership and that we try our best to progress and develop. And the biggest thing here is we want to be inclusive. We don't just want to say it, we want to be inclusive. So to be inclusive, we need to pull out some sandpaper and scratch some surfaces that are not going to like having sandpaper on them. We need to make some changes. We need to make some adaptations to take an amazing association and make it even better. And so, you know, luckily we have a progressive provincial board, and certainly, you know, the committee got struck. President calls a committee. So Dave Wright, you know, set this committee on fire and put us in charge of trying to make some changes. And so that's what we're about in a nutshell.
And Lindsay, from your perspective, why was this something you wanted to be a part of?
Yes, from looking at it from my business perspective, I've seen when I first started, those that participated in landscaping were generally that I was familiar with were generally white Anglo-Saxon Canadians. And as my company has progressed, I have seen new immigrants. I've had people of color. I've had people of different sexual orientations, different nationalities. And my company is evolving. And I knew that through landscaping, that landscaping in general was evolving, and thought that once the committee was struck at LO, I thought, wow, okay, so Landscape Ontario wants to evolve and wants to grow and wants to improve and nurture along its member companies. So I thought, why not? Let's try this and see how this works.
Awesome. Ed, can you tell us about, I'm getting a little bit of an echo there. Hopefully that's better now. So Ed, can you tell us, you know, what's the committee's mandate? What are some of the things that it's going to be looking at?
How much time do we have? And I'm not laughing at this at it. I'm laughing at the complexity of it, because the challenge here is that, and it's interesting. So originally, and actually I should maybe back up a little bit to say that originally one of the mandates to start was a statement of inclusion. And that is what we did. So our first statement, we came up with a statement of inclusion. We thought this was great, and we brought it to the provincial board. It passed all the hurdles. And then the reality came to us is that, okay, well, now we can't just come up with this statement. We have to actually act on this statement. And so our committee, was super excited about it. And then the last committee meeting we had, we said, okay, well, what are our goals and when are we finished? Like, when do you think this is completed? No one could answer it. And the reason is because there is no end. I don't think that we can ever take our foot off the gas pedal moving forward. Once you start, there's no stopping, because I don't think that you can, you make all this headway and then you come back. And I think I even know for me, this has been so eye-opening. It's incredible. And I think that when you realize there's an injustice or something that's wrong, I think there's probably two ways to deal with it. One is to walk away and hope it gets fixed. You have your car's making a funny noise and you turn the engine off and hope that next time it's gone. Okay, well, maybe next time it does go away for a little bit, but then comes back the third or fourth time you restart the car. Well, in truth, you got to go get it checked. It might be inconvenient, but you go and get it checked and get it dealt with, right? I don't know if that's a great analogy, but I think our goal was, if I heard correctly last time, is that we need to look at Landscape Ontario as a whole, and we need to find ways to make everything not just look, but be more inclusive. And I think that for us is going to be something moving forward that we have to take a hard look at and reflect not just society, but we also have to reflect our profession. And to do that, we're going to have to knock over a few doors, and we're going to have to punch through a few too, I'm sure. But I don't know, in terms of a goal or a mandate to finish, the mandate would be to make it an inclusive environment. What that takes, I think this is a long journey.
We're struggling, but we're not struggling. We just don't see an end date. And I guess that's what Ed has definitely said. There isn't an end date. And I think if you look at other companies, they've had various committees of equity and inclusion and diversity that are older than ours. And they're still ongoing, and they're still adding people to them, and people come off and go back on. And it's always moving. It's always looking forward. There's always change, changes in wording, changes in attitudes.
Constant living document.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's very crucial, is that it is constantly living, constantly evolving, moving forward, changing, adapting.
And one thing to add to, now that hearing Lindsay say it triggered me. Was it not that there's an end? Like, yes, I agree that there's so much to do. There's so much work. Oh my gosh, we're going to be working at this forever. But I think once we really get our feet underneath us, we're going to have, by the end of 2021, we want to have this. Mm-hmm. By the end of 2022, we want to have this. And by the way, Landscape Ontario is an inclusive environment in how we feel, but we have to show it more, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how we want to project that. So I think over the next few months in particular, like any association of our size, it takes a while to start, how are we going to do this, and what funds are going in here, and that sort of thing. But I do think that we'll have some sort of guidelines. Here's what we want to have. Like, look, we made an inclusion statement. Just the inclusion statement took us 6 months. The amount of people going back and forth on this was fantastic. People I don't like this word. I don't like that. I don't have this makes this person feel. And that might seem, some people in the group felt a little awkward as we were going through it, but there was no need to feel awkward. That was the point. That's the point, is that, my dad used to say every smooth finish requires sandpaper. And I think in this case, that's true, because there's uncomfortable conversations and there are uncomfortable situations. But, one of the gentlemen on our committee, Rohan, he made a comment last session, which was basically just, that we just have to take it, what's the most important right now? And then what's the most important? And then. Yeah. And I really liked that sort of tactical approach that he suggested, which was excellent. So.
Can I put either of you on the spot? Do you have that? Do you have the inclusion statement in front of you?
I do.
Yeah. Do you mind?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So Ed, do I say it with the word that we wanted changed, the word different changed?
Actually, the word that's been changed has been changed by the lawyer as well.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
okay.
So you're good to say that. Yeah.
Okay. So what we have is Landscape Ontario is a not-for-profit, volunteer-driven trade association dedicated to the advancement of the landscape horticultural profession. We want to ensure that we are collaborative and inclusive, where people of all genders, races, religions, nationalities, cultures, sexual orientations, languages, and abilities are welcomed and can feel comfortable, respected, and valued.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. And it sounds great. And there's a lot there, as you said.
But Scott, what's funny? Just even what you just said there, you nailed it. It sounds great.
Right.
So now our next step is how to make that more viable, more living, more all-encompassing. How do we get people to forward and use it and carry on with how LO runs and how we as companies run?
I love that comment, Lindsay. Living. Yeah, that really sums it. That's a really fantastic point there.
So how do LO members, how do they get involved? How do they, if they want to be a part of this this change, this committee even, what would you say to people listening that want to do something to be a part of it?
I'm going to answer this in a way, a couple things, but first is to say, like, one of the people on our committee had actually sent a letter to Tony about a question that they had. And, Tony, because of this committee, he forwarded it right to me. And he said, "Hey, Ed, what do you think?" And, we had a great conversation. That conversation led to him being a fantastic member of our committee with an amazing lens and with a really good viewpoint for us. Mm-hmm. And it's and I've appreciated that. Actually, hopefully he doesn't mind me sharing it, but it's Rohan. And in his case, for me, how do you get involved? So first of all, you get involved, like in anything, you figure out, like, first of all, somebody could send me an email if they really want to be on the committee or something like that, for sure. I have no problem with that. But I also feel that there's don't just throw darts from the sideline and make comments. If you're coming on, you're coming on. If you want to be part of the committee, you're part of the committee. This is not well, you haven't done this, and you haven't done this, and you haven't done that, you haven't done this. That's a question of, I am ready to help with this. I'm ready to make my teammates better. I am ready to make a more inclusive environment. And it's a personal statement to yourself. And if you can say that, then get a hold of your provincial rep, get a hold of your company owner. Let's say if you're an employee and you don't have you don't feel you have a regular voice to jump in with. I'm sure if you get a hold of Lindsay or Tony or Dave, anybody, they'll steer them into this. I mean, we have a pretty big hurdle for the next one, which is I'm not going to break any committee things, but we need to have an executive meeting next for us to crack through the next thing that we're hoping to make happen. Which, it's like a big piñata, we just got to hit it and have all the candy fall out so that, it's kind of feels like that. You got to, there's so much work to get the fruit, but it's okay, because when the fruit comes out, it's going to be so fantastic. That first bite into an apple, that first time you pick a tomato off the vine, like all those things, that really are, it's the fruit of us. We just got to get to it and get there. But yes, people can reach out through multiple channels for sure. And, at some point, it's funny, we were sort of joking in the committee, how many people on the committee is too many? I'm not really sure there is too many. I mean, we've grown from, I think, 6 the first time we met to, I think we're 13 now.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, 13 or 14. So boom, 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 boom. Started out with just owners. Now we have staff. Now we have, actually, we even have LO staff on board too. Like, it's growing. So yeah, it's a good thing. We need lots of different people with different viewpoints too. Not all the same boring people,
I think one of the things that came of it is, like, port trades, when they've been doing all the COVID task force, they came up with a statement that said, "Together we are one." And I think that really, that can also come to what this committee is doing, because together we are one. We have a stronger voice if we come together to make change, to carry on with the strength that LO has, and make change. So I'm all for together as one. So if you want to be one of the one, reach out.
Lindsay, is there anything we haven't touched on? I know we're not going to cover everything in this conversation. It's really just hopefully to get people that are listening thinking about it, thinking about, their connection to Landscape Ontario and what they'd like to see the association, be. But is there anything else that you'd like to touch on?
I think Ed really said it when he said, just call in, talk to whoever you feel. If you want to make a change, contact Ed, contact me, contact Tony, provincial reps, and step on board. It doesn't hurt to join. It does. We listen. People have a voice. Come on and be part of that voice for change. I think that's one of the most important things to make LO stronger, and continue with its strength and its change and inclusivity and diversity and equity. It's important that people bring their voice forward.
Something I would add to that is you don't have to be on the committee to make change either. Mm-hmm. I think that, how about at your own workplace this year, you make an effort that every single person that's new. You remember when you were a kid and you go to the lunchroom and that one kid who was a new kid at school sat off by themselves because they weren't part of a clique? How about you bring that person over to your table and let them sit with you? And then how about you allow, their entire family to come and sit with you? And, we've talked about this a lot at our committee, is that there's simple things like, you invite somebody over for dinner, and instead of you want to share your culture, right? You want to share that great meal that your mom made when you were a kid and you remember how great it tasted. And, and that there's nothing wrong with that. You want to do that, but then, you want to find out about them. Don't talk about yourself, talk about them. What is it I can learn from you? What can I learn about how you see things? How can I learn from you about why you didn't apply here before, but you decided to finally apply this year? What did we do differently to make you feel like you were welcomed? If in your interview process, there was something you could change, if there was something in your own personal company's website, maybe, there's something you look at and you say, what? I wonder if somebody, and ask somebody from a different walk of life, a different culture, a different ethnicity, something to look at your website and say, hey, what do you think? Be ready for it though, because you might hear something that's, you know what? I don't feel, look, we are speaking an international language. Plant material, pavers, beautiful backyards. That's what we do. We beautify the environment. That's our goal. That's our, there's other things too, but that's what we do. That's a universal language. When you go to different countries, it looks a bit different, but it's still beautification, right? I'm sure everybody who's into horticulture, you go somewhere tropical, and what's the first thing everybody, oh my gosh, you see the plant material? Like, it was so spectacular. Everything's blooming and everything's this, everything's that. Oh my God, I wish I didn't live in zone 5A. I wish I lived in zone 3A, and we start to get into that because that's what you want. But it doesn't mean I can't share that beautiful piece of plant material from where I'm from. And I don't know, I feel like, because I've been doing this a long time, and I just feel like we have these moments where, one of the big reasons, we all got into, I don't know, whatever it is that the reason why you're in the profession, my grandmother knew nothing about plant material, but she loved it. And I can remember she would not let a day go by where she didn't do something, go out and water something or cultivate something or pick a weed here and there. And you know what? You remember that. You think about it. So you know what? Think of it like that. We've got to cultivate relationships. It doesn't come easy. Nothing that you don't just plant a seed and it grows on its own. It needs care. It needs water, nutrients. If we don't give those things, it won't grow. So we can't, I'm giving about 500 analogies here, but the thing is, they all correlate, and how they speak to you is going to be different. So you might, I don't know, maybe Lindsay loves daylilies and I don't, maybe, but that's okay. I could still appreciate it. Right. And I think as a profession, we have a leg up on everybody else because we have that common passion, that common thing that draws us all together of, we want to make people's lives better through the experience of what we can provide for them and make their backyards more livable, more enticing, and then they can have friends over and gatherings and cultural activities and on and on and on, right? It's no different than our workplace. So I think that if we can look at that, but yeah, as much as it is, yes, certainly join our committee, do what you can, but at the same token, do what you can in your own corner, clean up your own yard, clean up your own activities, make sure that your company is doing something. Hey, maybe at your own company, you ask your supervisor, manager, owner, whatever it is, you come up and ask them, say, hey, have you ever think of having, let's say there's somebody in your workplace who comes from a different culture, let them, like we normally have like a pizza day. Well, why not let them share their culture with the whole company and make, a dish from their background, right? Like, I don't know. I think there's so many ways we could do things that, it's no different than music in a way, right? Like we allow different staff over the years, like you're sitting in a car, you're in a truck and you're on your way to a job site. What radio station do you pick? I don't like a certain type of music, but maybe they really like a music. Okay, well, what do? We keep working until we, we can both agree on whatever kind of music it is. So start from there and then work your way out. I don't know. Anyway,
that's great. No, that's fantastic, Ed. I appreciate that very much, and I really do appreciate both Ed and Lindsay. Just joining, just to have this conversation, to start this conversation, really, and hopefully getting some of the folks that are going to be listening to this thinking. And we'd love, like you said, love to see them contribute to the LO community or their own workplaces and homes. So I think it's this is a great starting place, and perhaps we leave it there for now.
Scott, an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time on an important topic.
Thank you both.
Thank you.